So this is the topic, client server installation and configuration. So the content is introduction to client server network setup. Number 2 is Active Directory installation. Number 3 is DHCP installation. 4 is creating OU and user account. 5 joining client PC on the domain. Number 6 is installation file services. Number 7 is configure NTFS permission. So number 1 is introduction to client server network setup. A computer consists of two or more computers intended to share resources. So a client server network is a system where one or more computers called client connect to a central computer named a server to share or use resources. So each client computer must use an operating system that allows it to be identified to participate in the network. So next is the client server types of network also provides many other advantages, such as centralized backup, intranet capability, internet monitoring, etc. In a small network, all these services can be handled by one server. So in a medium to large network, there can be many servers with each performing a different task. So the number two topic is Active Directory installation. Active Directory is the brain of a Windows Server network. It is a database that keeps track of a huge amount of stuff and gives us a centralized way to manage all our network machines, users, and resources. So the types of the Active Directory provides users and groups, services like email, etc., and resources, printer, shared folders, etc. So that's the item. What is domain controller? So a domain controller is a machine that runs Active Directory services. Think of it as a boss of your network, and you may have multiple domain controllers that all have copies of the same Active Directory database. So what is domain again? It is a logical group of computers that share a central directory database. So the machine is all named with part of domain, like it's me, Ismail.com, also called a suffix, and registered in the Active Directory database so they can be managed. So Forest is comprises of all the domains in your enterprise. So your forest may be only one domain. So users are also part of namespace. Example, your email address is a part of domain namespace. Like it's me, Ismail. So what is server role? Server role is a major job that a server can perform. It's recommended that a server not have too many roles. A domain controller usually has only two roles. It is A, Active Directory Domain Service, and B is Domain Name Services. If you are trying to create some other roles, you can use another domain controller to prevent overpopulation of roles in a single domain controller that may cause less productivity. So installation. Number 1 is open Server Manager and click on roles. This will bring up the role summary on the right side where you can click on the add roles link. So the second is select server role. Check Active Directory Domain Services, then click install. And from the list you will be told that you need to add some features. Click on the Add required features button and click next to move. So next is number 3 is a brief introduction to Active Directory will be displayed as well as a view links to additional resources You can just click next to skip past her and click install to start installing the binaries from Active Directory. So the next is when the installation is finished, you will be shown as message configuration. Just click to close. So configuration. Open Server Manager, expands roles. Click plus or and click on the Active Directory Domain Services. On the right side, click on the Active Directory Domain Services Installation Wizard link that show in Figure 6. Or you can use an alternative method shows in Figure 7. So number 3, it will show another wizard, this time to configure the settings for your domain. Click next to continue. Number 3 is the message that is shown now relates to older clients that do not support the new cryptographic algorithm supported by Server 2008 R2. These are used by default in Server 2008 R2 and click next to move. Number 4 is just to create a new domain in a new forest. Number 5 is now you can name your domain. In this lesson, I will be using a.com.suffix. So number 6 that we want to do is change forest functional level to server 2008 R2. Number 7 that we want to do is include DNS in our installation, as still will allow us to have an IDE integrated DNS zone. When you click next, you will be prompted with a message. Just click yes to continue. So the number 8 is a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found, or it does not run Windows DNS server. If you are integrating with an existing DNS infrastructure, you should manually create a delegation to this DNS server in the parent zone to ensure reliable name resolution from outside domain. It's like example, it's mail.com, otherwise no option is required. So number 9 is you will need to choose a place to store log files. It is a best practice to store the database and sysvol folder on one drive and the log file on a separate drive. But since this is in a lab environment, just leave them all the same drive. Number 10 is assign password for administrator account that will be used when this domain controller is started in directory service restore mode. Choose a strong Active Directory restore mode password and click next twice to continue the configuration. Number 11 is review the summary of the configure services. So number 12 that we will do is we will be able to see that components are being installed by looking in following box. If the reboot on completion checkbox was not checked, you will proceed to manual reboot shows in figure. So the topic is number 3, DHCP installation. So dynamic host configuration protocols, or DHCP, is a client server protocol that automatically provides a server protocol, or IP, host with its IP address and other related configuration information such as the subnet mask and default gateway. So the RFCS 2131 and 2132 define DHCP as an Internet Engineering Task Force, or IETF standard based on Bootstrap Protocol, or BOOTP, a protocol with which the DHCP shares many implementation details. So number 1 is just start top and administrative tools, then server managers, So the manage your server application appears. So number 2, click the roles link and then click add a role, and the add roles wizard appears. So next to click is to get wizard started. The wizard displays as a list of available server roles. Select the HTTP server from the list of roles and then click next. The wizard display an explanation of the HTTP. Then number 5 is click next. So the wizard displays as a list on the server network connection that have static IP addresses as shown in the following illustration. So number 6 is select the static IP addresses you want to use for the DHCP server, then click next. The wizard has the DNS configuration information as shown below. So number 8 is click next. The wizard next asks from the WINS configuration information. So number 9 is optional. If you want to enable WINS, enter the WINS server configuration and then click next. If you don't want to use WINS, skip the step and just click next either. With the next screen let you configure scopes. So number 10 is create a new scope. Click the add scope button. The wizard asks for a name and description for the new scope as shown below. So number 10 is enter the information for the new scope. So next is select the active this scope checkbox and then click OK. The scope is created as shown below. So this is the number 13. When you finish creating scopes, click next. Then number 14 is click next again. Click next and click install. Click close, and then you're done. So number 4 is creating OU end user account. So what is an OU? An organization unit is a container that holds the object like users, account, computers account, and groups. So OUs help to keep your object organized, but also are used to control what your users can and can't do. So when it starts off building up your OUs, so your user and computer accounts will have a place to live. You can organize OUs. So example is geographically and by function. So creating an organizational unit or OU starts by opening up your server manager, then expand the role select. Creating organizational unit. Number 1 is open server manager. Number 2 is expand the Active Directory domain services. Number 3 is at this point you should be able to see your domain. In our example, we are using the itsme.ismail domain. Go ahead and expand your domain, click. Number 4 is now we need to create an organizational unit for a group to live in. In this example, we are going to create an OU for our CSS students. To create a new organization unit, right click on your domain name, point to the new option and select organizational unit. Number 5 is type the name of your OU and make sure that the box is checked next to protect container from accidental deletion. When done, click OK. So number 6, we now have a new organizational unit in our Active Directory called CSS Students. In user account, it allows users to access network resources. Create an account using Server Manager. Number 1 is Open Server Manager. Open roles, click Open Active Directory users and expand domain name. And select the organization units or CS students where you want to create the new user account. Number 2 is in the empty area, right click, select and click users. You can also click the OU and click next and select users to create new user account. So number 3 is new object dialog box will open as shown below. You can fill in the user information like first name, last name, etc. As you can see below, there are two user login names. The first user login name, also called user principal name or UPN, or superuse ismail.com, which is email like name that can be used to log into domain join computers. Second user login name, pre-window 2000, also called some account name, also can be used user to log into domain join computers in the form ismail or super user. So number 4 is enter password for the user. You can choose various options as shown below. Once you are done, click next. Number 5 is build summary, then click finish. So our topic is number 5, joining client PC on the domain. So preparing client workstations. So number 1 is press Windows sign plus or in your keyboard, then type ncpa.cpl, then click next or OK. Number 2, local area connection where right click local area connection, then click properties, then click internet protocol version, then click properties. Add the following network configuration, click OK and click close. So join domain using Windows 7. Number 1 on the taskbar, click start, right click computers and click properties. Number 2 is click change setting. The next system, in the system properties dialog, click the computer name tab and click the change button. Number 4 is after specifying the name of the computer and the domain to join, click OK. You would be asked to provide a username and password for a user who has the permission to let a computer join a domain. Number 5 is type the username of your users with admin privilege, which allowed a computer to join a domain. So number 6 is after entering user and password, click OK. You will receive a welcome message. Number 7 is restart your computer, and the last is finish. Number 6, installation file services. Go to the start menu and select server manager. The server manager console will open. Select add roles from right pane. So the number 3, select the file services role from the roles list and click next. Number 4 is read next, then selection of file service and click next. Number 7 is review the confirmation wizard for role services and click install. And next is check the installation progress, then finish. Number 7, configure NTFS permission. Permission can be set to deny or allow. The most common way to set permission is to use Windows Explorer to set permission for an object. So number 1 is Windows Explorer. Right click a file, folder or volume and choose properties from the context menu. The properties dialog box appears. So number 2 is click the security tab. Number 3, under group of user, name select or add a group of users. At the bottom, allow or deny one of the available permissions. Properties dialog box showing security tab. So adding a reverse lookup zones. Number 1 is to open DNS manager. Click start, point to administrative tools, and then click DNS. So next is right click a reverse lookup zones under domain name system DNS server, and then click new zone to open the new zone wizard. So number 3 is click next. Number 4, select type of zone and click next. 5 is select zone data, replicate and click next. So the number 6 is the next screen will ask wait whether the reverse lookup zone should be for IPv4. For IPv6, choose the appropriate, appro- appropriate one of the select next. If both are needed, you will have to configure separately. So for number 7, now enter the network ID for the zone. This screen will different if an IPv6 reverse zone is chosen. Enter the network ID and select next. So the last is select type of dynamic updates and click next. So this is the last. Click next finish to complete creation. So that's also that this is my video presentation.